even though I had this review planned from the beginning of the year, when we were asking for requests for content for 2024, someone actually suggested this for an anime review on the Blockbuster show. And you know what? I'm very flattered, because I'm glad to see that somebody had the exact same idea. Since it was announced quite recently that they want to do a follow-up to this show because the first season ended on a cliffhanger, they're finally deciding to continue this series. I figured it'd be a good enough time to talk about this show and the kind of weird legacy that it's carried on after its one season of existing and becoming this huge, like, cult phenomena amongst anime fans. So, without any further delay, let's talk about Panty and Stocking.
Panty stocking, panty, panty stocking, oh, panty stocking, oh, panty stocking. Oh, tell me, baby, feel right. Panty stocking, panty stocking, panty, panty stocking, oh, panty stocking. Tell me, alright. Oh, tell me, baby, feel right.
Unlike some other anime I've reviewed on the Blockbuster show, like Pop Team Epic and Jashin-chan and Nagatoro and animes like that, this was not based on a manga. This was not based on any previous material. Panty and Stocking is the brainchild of a lot of the creative staff over at the animation company Gainax, which specialized in a lot of anime, most notably Gurren Lagann. And Gurren Lagann, even though, compared to Panty and Stocking, it was a show that had a overarching plot, and it compared to Panty and Stocking took itself a little more seriously, even though it did have a lot of like wacky, fun moments all throughout it. It was very cartoony, but Panty and Stocking is on like a whole other level. Apparently the guys at Gainax, after working really hard on Gurren Lagann, decided to travel to the US for a vacation to try and come up with some new ideas, as well as just take it easy after all the work they did on that series. And they were at a couple of different conventions, and they noticed a bunch of different stuff that ultimately led to the creation of Panty and Stocking. As far as the content of the show itself, the biggest inspiration comes from the old Comedy Central show Drawn Together, which, I'm gonna be totally honest, kind of joked about this in the Jashin-chan review. I was never the world's biggest fan of that show. A lot of the humor just kind of felt like super in-your-face, super blunt, just general stereotype vulgar humor, which, to some people that's hilarious. Me personally, I never really got into it. That being said, I really do like a lot of the humor in Panty and Stocking, even though it definitely does take a lot of influence from Drawn Together. I actually like the humor in Panty and Stocking a lot more. As for the art style, they were going for sort of a more Western look. They were trying to make this look less like an anime, even though you can clearly tell it's still made in Japan. There's lots of scenes that are clearly taken from certain popular anime, like the transformation sequences are obviously lifted from like Sailor Moon and other magical girl kind of anime like that. They cited a lot of late 90s, early 2000s Cartoon Network as being an inspiration for the art style, and it really shows. It looks like they took a lot of like the thick outlines from shows like Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls, and a little bit of Invader Zim, specifically with a certain character who's basically just a direct homage to Gur from that series. Apparently, the creator of Invader Zim actually saw that and thought it was funny, even though he admitted he wasn't really a big anime fan. Talk about the ultimate backhanded compliment. More importantly, what is Panty and Stocking about? Well, Panty and Stocking, it ran for 13 episodes in 2010, and the main premise is you have the Anarchy Sisters, the titular Panty and Stocking, and they are both angels who were banished from heaven on account of bad behavior. And you could tell because even in the first episode, Panty is the slutty one.
That's your cue to go, sweet cheeks.
So I'll call you and...
And Stocking is really into gluttony. She really likes eating sugary sweets and stuff that is not good for her.
Don't talk to me until I've had my goddamn sugar.
And so, now that they're banished to Earth, specifically Dotton City, they're now in this city that is overrun with ghosts that are attacking the human world, sent by the devil and his minions. So it's up to these two renegade angels to try and work their way back into heaven by doing good deeds and taking out these ghosts. And every time they take out a certain number of ghosts, they are given these things called like heaven coins or heaven tokens, and they are closer and closer to getting back into heaven by pretty much buying their way in.
Good, angels. You got a coin.
All that for just one?
Yeah, one closer, so quit your bitching.
Other characters include a priest called Garterbelt, who is basically a sassy 70s blaxploitation type of character who's a priest.
Contrary to popular belief, you are not here to collect men or sugar. So focus and stop acting like fat-ass hoes.
He is also supposed to be attracted to little boys, so they can make the easy pedophilic priest jokes.
Be a good boy and drop your drawers.
What?
What's the matter? Do you want me to pull him out for you?
Can you tell that Drawn Together and other early 2000s Comedy Central shows were an inspiration for this? I mean, it really shows with a lot of the episodes that are in this show. I mean, shit. The first episode has them going up against a giant monster made of shit. So it's kind of like they're going up against the great mighty Pooh from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
It's time for us to flush the toilet.
Number 1, that was cheesy. Number 2, you smell like shit.
How about I buy you a cake from that fancy bakery and you manage to do this without saying another fucking word?
As long as what I'm saying now doesn't count, I'm in.
Before it starts to, leak out of people's toilets and like manifest in the streets, it shows people, Panty included, they're about to get sucked down into the toilet, and I was just thinking, oh fuck, they predicted Skibbity Toilet. Oh fuck, no. And there's Chuck, who we previously mentioned, who's basically just their version of Gurr from Invader Zim, and he's just there to be slapstick. He usually gets the brunt of a lot of the abuse from Panty and Stocking, along with the next character we're going to talk about, but I think Panty and Stocking treat him way worse than Zim ever treated Gurr, and that's saying something. And then lastly, you got this one young guy who hangs out with them. His name is Brief. So yeah, you're noticing a pattern with the names here, right? Panty, Stocking, Garterbelt, Brief, like briefs.
Oh shit, you guys are real ghost hunters! I'm so excited I'm itching! Oh, but in places I shouldn't be! Wait till people hear about this, a few of them will want to be friends with me, I know it!
He's a wannabe ghost hunter, and he's really into the paranormal and the supernatural and whatnot, and he is always trying to hang out with them, mostly because it seems he has a thing for Panty, and Panty just wants nothing to do with him.
Yo, Ginger Crust, you did a good job today. Speaking of which, why don't you come here and let me give you a reward?
Huh? Like what?
Oh, don't be such a fucking prude. You know what I mean. Drop trowel and climb up.
What? You can't be serious! That's not how it works, is it? I haven't even been tested yet, and you probably haven't either! And should we hold hands or kiss or fall in love first?
Every single chance, not just her, but also Stocking, every chance they get, they put this poor fucking guy down.
I'll just find someone else. Way to fuck it up, pansy.
I've never been more ashamed. How are we ever gonna marry you off?
Much like Popco and Pee Pee Me from Pop Team Epic, I really like the chemistry between the two main characters, and even though there are more characters to work off of compared to Pop Team Epic, where it mostly was just the two main characters, I really like the chemistry between the two titular characters of Panty and Stocking themselves. There are plenty of episodes where they show a sisterly bond and they have good rapport back and forth, cracking jokes at other people and making each other laugh.
'Tis only a matter of time until this earthly realm is just pervaded with ghosts.
Did you drink a thesaurus this morning? I don't know what you're saying.
Not that we don't support your little dreams and all, but I really need some chocolate, so we're gonna go ahead and kill you now.
And there's other great episodes where they clearly get on each other's nerves and they're always pissing each other off and they never want to work together and they're always bickering and fighting.
You heard what I said! I'm not going anywhere with that goddamn waste of space whore! Who the fuck are you calling a whore? Hey, fuck off, cunt bag! I'm so fucking over you! Quit copying me!
I really do like their interactions. It's very opposite to Pop Team Epic, where it seems like Popco and Pee Pee Me are the only ones that really understand one another. Like, everyone else around them is normal and they're confused and weirded out by their antics. Panty and Stocking are essentially the main characters, and they have plenty to work with all the people around them. They annoy Garterbelt, and Garterbelt's always telling them to like get their shit together and get their heads out of their asses.
Get your lazy ass into the scene immediately! All right, this is the part where you're supposed to get the fuck up.
No way.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen, Garter.
Holy shit, what now?
Chief is unfortunately the brunt of a lot of their abuse, and Panty just walks all over him, and Stocking is always behind her and calling him dork boy and shit like that. Panty is just constantly trying to find guys to hook up and fuck with every chance she gets, and Stocking, well, she's more gothic, so she doesn't really interact with a whole lot of people, but, I mean, if Panty goes to a party, then more than likely Stocking will go just so that she can make fun of all the squares. I really did like the chemistry between the two characters, and episode to episode, it's interesting to see them end up in a bunch of different scenarios together. Some episodes they get along, other episodes they really push each other's buttons. There's one episode in particular where there's this ghost that's modeled after Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf, and Stocking tries to fight them alone, but then she ends up getting tied up, which, of course, with the themes of this show, she likes, because they establish that she's into bondage.
God, I'm starting to get into this. Why don't you goblins next time we cut us one nympho ranger?
Then Panty shows up, and they don't want to work together. They're pissing each other off. They're often intentionally trying to screw the other over, and then ultimately they decide the only way to take out these two ghosts is by working together. And I gotta bring up, one of the best running gags in the show is whenever they have the ghosts blow up, they always have these like little miniature mock-ups of the ghosts that are in live action, and they put like firecrackers or whatever inside of it, and then watch it explode from like a bunch of different angles. It's really funny.
I can both these forces! Run
There are a lot of episodes in the show where they clearly try to parody certain tropes that you'd expect from anime or animated series in general. Like, they have the obligatory beach episode where there's a volleyball competition.
Today we got a beach, barely there swimsuits, and the obligatory ghost/monsters to help keep things exciting. And that's about it.
There's an episode that's modeled after Transformers, which apparently, like, the guy that made the show, or one of the head writers, was like a huge Transformers fan, so they got to do a whole episode that was basically just a big parody of Transformers, because this was 2010, this was around the time fucking stupid-ass Revenge of the Fallen was out, so there is a good joke in there about the Michael Bay Transformers movies, which I appreciated.
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall.
It's like one of those bots from that cool old cartoon/crappy film!
Like you'd expect with a show like this, where they have characters that have pun names. They do characters that are supposed to be the Autobots and Decepticons, and the parody leaders of the group are called Coctimus Prime and Minjatron. And it's just these guys doing impressions of the characters from the 80s cartoon, and it's really funny.
Wait, did he say Coctimus Prime?
My name is Minjatron, and I've come to this planet to make this one my bitches!
There's an episode where they parody, like, zombie apocalypse movies and shows, and that one's pretty good. That has a lot of funny moments in it. My favorite bit is there are these two background characters that are clearly supposed to be a parody of, like, the background characters you get in these kind of zombie movies and shit. But one guy is, like, upset that his wife got zombified, and he's like gonna sacrifice himself and run out, and while everybody else scatters to try and find, like, shelter or whatever. And he tells, like, this one girl in the crowd, like, now please, whatever you do, write my life story. Here, I have some of it penned down. Please write it for me. And then he runs out, and then she goes, you only have like 3 pages.
Write my life story and publish it wide.
Wait, I can't. I suck at writing. I can barely even read. I mean, I get headaches trying to finish comic books. Plus, you only wrote 3 pages!
There's a bunch of shit like that. It's not just the super in-your-face, blunt swearing and sex jokes and whatnot, but every once in a while there's just a good little subtle piece of dialogue that gets me, and that was one of them. And there are episodes that just have really bizarre, outlandish situations, like Panty and Stocking end up on a game show it's like half game show, half judge courtroom show, and they're being held accountable for the murder of a ghost who was trying to live in a neighborhood with his wife, and they're being held accountable, and at one point they're given a lawyer who's a monkey, but then eventually that monkey gets electrocuted and it goes like all fucking Phoenix Wright, and it's like a master lawyer.
Objection! The claims of the prosecution in this case are contradictory, Your Honor.
How so, talking monkey?
There's an episode that tackles Stocking's cravings, and Panty keeps making fun of her for constantly eating and how, oh, someday she's just gonna balloon in size. And the villain of the episode is this ghost that bakes this special batch of sweets that have been going on throughout the town, and apparently, like, just eating one of them will make people balloon in size. And of course, Stocking has had so much of it that she fucking grows gigantic.
Fucking shit, girl, what happened? You're like trashy talk show fat!
Huh? What are you talking about? I always have a bridge around my waist. Don't be an asshole.
I really don't want to harp on this too much, but before anyone says, oh man, this wouldn't fly nowadays, I'm more than convinced it didn't fucking fly when it came out. Shit, that's the same thing with South Park. It's like, is it offensive? Yeah. At the same time, that's kind of what they're trying to get from the audience. They're trying to offend them. Not every joke in the show works. I mean, there's plenty of jokes where it's like, oh yeah, they had no jokes, so instead they just had characters swear. Or you know, they talk about dicks and balls and cum and pussy. Or they mention that Brief has a small dick. Or, oh, Garterbelt is a pedophilic priest. Like, yeah, not every joke works.
Oh, by the way, I diddled him. I diddled him real hard. And he said I was the best fuck he had ever had. Way better than you. Not that he should procreate, but I would totally have his abortion.
It's kind of the same way I feel with Pop Team Epic, except Pop Team Epic's style of humor is way different than Panty and Stocking. Panty and Stocking is a lot more blunt and in your face and abrasive and, you know, try hard and trying to be, like, shocking and offensive. Pop Team Epic, on the other hand, I mean, yeah, there's swearing in it, but most of the humor just comes down to just random and absurdity and a lot of internet-related humor, which I guess there's a little bit of that in Panty and Stocking, but it's a lot. It feels like they couldn't be any more different in terms of, like, their comedic content. Like I said in my review of Pop Team Epic, I feel like if you like the style of humor in the show, I feel like you're more than likely going to like the show. Because, you know, with Pop Team Epic, if you like that kind of meme humor, then yeah, I'd highly recommend it. And the same with this. If you know that you like offensive humor and like jokes that kind of push boundaries and aren't afraid to be really cutting edge, then yeah, by all means, I highly recommend it. If it's not your kind of show, then that's totally fine. You don't have to watch it, whatever. But I'm just saying, if you know that you're a fan of this style of comedy, then by all means, yes. If you haven't checked it out already, definitely look into it. Halfway through the first season of this show, we start to get reoccurring villains. The two main reoccurring villains are these demon counterparts to Panty and Stocking called Scanty and Knee Socks. And they're pretty much just Panty and Stocking if they were demons. And, well, one thing they established earlier in the show is they have to go undercover at the local high school. And of course, that's where they meet Brief, and Panty and Stocking, like, instantly become the popular girls. Because in that same episode, the villain is a ghost who was guising herself as, like, the queen bee popular girl of the school. Like, Brittany was her name, so she's the queen bee, and her ghost form looks like a giant, like, bee ghost monster.
She's a queen, she's a bee, she's a queen bee, we fucking get it!
I hope you both have something good to turn into teacher, Barbie, because stupidity results in death in my classroom.
And of course, Panty and Stocking stop her, but then a couple episodes later, there's a new batch of popular girls that are trying to upstage them. And of course, those two are their demonic counterparts called Scanty and Knee Socks, who are basically just Panty and Stocking if they were demons from hell.
It seems unfair, though. We're already superior in everything, so I don't understand how they're going to challenge us. What do angels do? Save lives and blow horns? How cute.
I have an inkling blowing is the tawdry one's specialty.
Bitch! Don't you judge my blowjob skills! So you know, I was ranked 69 on BK.com!
And they pretty much become the main villains after this episode. They show up in virtually every episode after that.
We'll let you off the hook and call it a draw, but only because we're late for an important appointment! Don't think it's because we're finished with you gross parasites!
At this point, I know what you're probably thinking. You have an adult animated cartoon about angels and demons, and there's lots of jokes that involve just absolute profanity and vulgar language and constant mentions of sex shit. What was this fucking Has-Been Hotel? Was this fucking Helluva Boss?
Oh, hell no! Don't listen.
honestly, that's another good comparison. I mean, if you like the really blunt and brazen humor and language and nonstop sexual references in something like Has Been or Helluva Boss, this really ain't too fucking different. In a way, it's like this show is kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different stuff. It's like Powerpuff Girls, Invader Zim, Drawn Together, Pop Team Epic, Has Been Hotel, Helluva Boss, Brazzers. Yeah, about halfway through the show, or maybe a little bit before that, Scanty and Knee Socks are reoccurring characters, and they're basically the main antagonists of the series. And they're the ones that are sending these ghosts to attack Dotton City, and of course Panty and Stocking have to stop them. But every once in a while it's just like a one-on-one thing. And one thing I did like was, even though most episodes end with, you know, the ghosts being destroyed, there are certain episodes that end with nothing getting resolved. Like the beach episode, a bunch of ghosts are unleashed, and like, it doesn't even end with them stopping them. We're only led to assume that maybe they stopped them off screen, but the episode just ends super abruptly.
Who is flipping them greenbacks looking like a pimp?
A sperm whale ghost? No way!
Shit like that kind of reminded me of Invader Zim. Like, you look at an episode of Invader Zim, like the baloney episode. That one doesn't end with them getting cured. They're just baloney, and then that's it. It's implied that they basically die. I really did like that they kept Scanty and Knee Socks throughout the course of the series. They're really good adversaries for Panty and Stocking, and they have really good banter back and forth because, of course, you have the aspect of, you know, you have two angels, two demons, and they're constantly talking about the hierarchy and how soon enough hell will rise and engulf the earth, and there's nothing that those angels can do about it. But Panty and Stocking, being a couple fallen angels who have potty mouths and pretty much do whatever the fuck they want, they don't really give a shit.
I wouldn't come any closer, but feel free to test us. Nothing would make me happier than to destroy your mingy rodent boyfriend here.
Yeah, like I give a shit. Do whatever you want with that turd pie. Maybe he'll distract you. Make it easier for us to stomp your sunburned asses.
Pansy, please don't!
You'd sacrifice your friend for your own perseverance? You're angels!
Uh-huh. We're also tired, irritated, and over it.
You have a couple of episodes that actually kind of go against type. Like, there's one that tackles a pretty interesting subject of Stocking falling in love with a ghost, and Panty is telling her that she shouldn't do that because it goes against everything that they're supposed to be doing. But ultimately, the ghost ends up traveling on to the afterlife after Stocking has this whole emotional speech about how much she likes him. Panty tries to kill the ghost, like, near the end of the episode, but that's when Stocking tries to protect him, and then ultimately he realizes that he also loves her, and then he moves on to the afterlife.
I can't explain it, but it's so clear to me now the reason I was put here. I was never gonna find happiness until it found me. Until you found me. You complete me. You make me want to be a better man, Stocking. See ya.
And it's actually really touching the way they do it. It's one of the few times where the show takes itself seriously, and it actually worked for the most part. I actually really liked this episode because it felt like a welcome change of pace, and it shows that the show does know how to occasionally slow down and have some more serious character moments without feeling like the entire show just comes to a complete halt. There's another episode that, well, the first half of it is just basically a series of like little mini adventures with Chuck. And, you know, there's a bunch of slapstick and wacky antics going on there as Chuck goes against Scanty and Knee Socks' pet, who's supposed to be like an anti-Chuck. And the second half of the episode basically becomes this extended music video, and that's the other thing I gotta talk about. The music in this show, I mean, the theme song has been turned into a bit of a meme lately. Like, there's a bunch of people who are doing these, like, parody animations of the theme song. Then you got, like, the song they use during the transformation sequences, where they're going into like their full power mode. It's like the, you know, the Sailor Moon kind of transformation scene. But with this show, the song that they use, that became a bit of a meme on TikTok with a lot of people doing like remixes and funny videos of it. I'm not the world's biggest music guy or anything, but I do like the show has kind of a punk rock mixed with like electronica and hip hop. There was a bunch of stuff at the time that had music like this. It's very 2010 to be sure, but I really did like a lot of the music in this show. And that one episode, even though there's not really a whole lot going on in it story-wise, not like it really matters with a show like this, but yeah, I did like that they had an episode that was pretty much just a way to show off some cool visuals and some awesome music. And you get to how this show ends. And the last 2 episodes are probably the biggest example of a story that connects. Because we've had little bits of continuity all throughout the season. The biggest reveal is that Scanty and Nisox are working with the mayor of Dotton City. In the last 2 episodes, they start to reveal who he really is. He's like some higher level demon from hell named Corset.
What are you doing here, Corset?
It's been a long time, hasn't it, Garterbelt? In truth, we haven't met since then, have we?
In the first part of the season finale, you have it that they have successfully gotten enough heaven coins so they can go back to heaven. Well, more importantly, Stocking does, but Panty, because she's mostly just letting Stocking do all the work, is still stuck on Earth and has to keep trying to fight ghosts so that she can earn her way into heaven. So her and Brief temporarily get together for a little bit, but of course she wants nothing to do with him. And then ultimately, Brief has to go to some kind of big family gathering, and it's here where she finds out that Brief is actually the son of some super rich, super powerful guy. And of course, you know, the entire series, he has his bangs in his face, but then pull back the bangs, he's apparently a total stud, and Penny just realizes right then and there that she actually likes him. Because another thing that they've been pointing out, and the reason that Penny has been slacking off when it comes to taking out the ghosts, is because she's trying to have sex with 1,000 guys while she's still on Earth. And so, while at this party trying to find a bunch of dudes to hook up with, then she realizes that she wants Brief to be her 1,000th.
I can't do that, Dad. I'm sorry, but I refuse to marry a girl I don't even like.
Excuse me?
I mean it, Dad. I'm not gonna be your puppet anymore.
If you're trying to embarrass me, son, you've succeeded.
I don't care. You can listen to me for a change. That's the girl I want to marry.
His father wants him to marry a girl he doesn't love, and oh, lo and behold, guess what? It happens to be Scanty. So this causes a huge outburst at the party. Brief says that he doesn't want to marry someone that he doesn't know and doesn't love, and then him and Panty, they flee the scene, they're able to get away, but of course you know that Scanty and Nisox are going to be hot on their trail. So while they're on the run, they temporarily stop for the night at an old dilapidated barn, and they're about to have sex, but at that point, Panty's virginity resets. Yeah, this is a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. Just as I thought. Girl, you've been re-virginized.
Corset shows up and basically lets them know that no matter what they do, they're fucked. Their plan is going to come to fruition, and there's nothing that Garter or Brief or Panty can do about it. Part 2 begins with this really funny situation where Panty imagines that she has a completely different life. Or not even imagining, but like it's like she ran away and tried to start a life anew. Like, and you can't tell, like, wait, did she get amnesia or some shit? Because now she's living on, like, a farm with this, like, young blonde farmhand guy and her grandma. And you're like, wait, what the fuck is happening? And then you find out that the whole thing was her trying to run away from her past life and act like all the shit that's going on in Dotton City isn't happening. But then it turns out that the grandma, who ends up getting shot by some biker gang, along with the farmhand guy, he gets shot too. But Granny gives Panty some kind of big speech about why she should go back and set things right.
You know what you want to do, you just gotta go do it.
No, I won't listen to my feelings. They get in the way. I just can't.
Shut up, god damn it! I'm a dying granny, and when a dying granny says something, you listen to her!
Sorry.
And it turns out that the whole thing was just a setup by Garter.
Talk about your high-maintenance jobs. That was rough. Yeah, it's me. Looks like everything's moving according to the schedule. The girl's on her way out to you now.
Thanks a lot, Trixie.
Like I said, it was shit like that that made me laugh in this show. And he decides to go back, set things right. Of course, the big thing that's going to activate Hell's Monkey, which is this like big fucking interdimensional portal thing that's gonna bring all of hell to Earth. The thing that's supposed to be the key to all of this is Brief's dick.
It appears the descendant of the Hell's Monkey has been awoken by an angel's kiss. Just a little nudge.
New definition to gatekeeper and keymaster. This is appropriate because Brief is a ghost hunter. But anyway, Panty goes back, regroups with them. She finally has sex with Brief, and it's like, you know, her virginity is finally taken. And it's a very small thing. I knew they were going to do dialogue like this, but they still made it have some feeling, where she says, like, it's almost like you are my first, because her virginity reset. So they have sex. It feels like the whole Hell's Monkey thing isn't going to go through, but of course it still manages to anyway. And then Stocking shows up, and of course leave it to those two wacky bitches to take out Corset and his stupid evil plan. And all the while you have Garter, who temporarily dies. But then he comes back, and my favorite thing is they rewind the footage showing like his like little mock-up like rebuilding itself. At least they defeated the bad guys, and once again, sticking in theme with this show, the main villain at the end, the big giant monster that they end off this season with, basically just looks like a giant dick. Oh, hooray! Even though Dotton City has been completely destroyed, it can now be reborn, and all of Satan's evil minions and all those other asswipes, they've been taken care of. Or at least that's what we think, because if you stay to after the credits, well, there's a bit of a plot twist.
I mean, you would have to try it to see.
I'm sorry. But surprise, I'm actually a demon.
I can only assume that this would have carried over into a second season in 2011, except that never happened. Mostly because, as far as I can tell, Gynax ended up getting shut down, but it eventually got reborn as a different studio. It's now called, like, Trigger. And I think Trigger are the ones that own the rights to stuff like Gurren Lagann, and they also own the rights to Panty and Stocking. And 2023, or maybe it was 2022, I'm pretty sure it was 2023, they announced they were going to be doing a new Panty and Stocking project. Closest thing to something like this before was 2016, where they announced they were going to make some Panty and Stocking themed restaurant in Japan, which, I mean, cool, but it's not a continuation of the show. But yeah, just recently they announced they want to do, I don't know, reboot or a proper second season. It's not really clear, but the point is we're getting a new season. Of course, this has resulted in a lot of people wondering, is the new Panty and Stocking going to toe the line and not have as many offensive jokes in it? Or is that just going to help promote them even more if they just keep doing the same kind of humor and not really care what, you know, fucking people ready to debate on Twitter are thinking? And honestly, I think that, again, considering that the stuff they were doing was offensive even when the show came out for the first time, I think that they are going to do that, but I am a little bit cautious to see like what they do. For the most part, I'm cautiously optimistic, but there is that worry of like, I don't want them to try too hard just to be like, you know, oh yeah, fuck it, we're gonna be twice as edgy now, bro, fucking hashtag cancel this, man. But at the same time, I also don't want it to be like, oh, well, yeah, we may have done edgy jokes in the past, but we're not doing that anymore. I'm more or less just wondering what they're going to do as far as the story goes. I would love to know if it's going to be a direct follow-up, or they're just going to be like, fuck it, we're hitting the reset button. We're just going to have more wacky adventures with Panty and Stocking. I'm curious to see where it goes. And overall, rewatching Panty and Stocking all these years later, like I said, not every joke works. You know, there are plenty of jokes where I'm like, like that's a little try-hard. Didn't really find it funny. But when it was funny, I laughed at it. It's like I said earlier in the review, I feel the same way about this show that I do with Pop Team Epic. If you know for a fact that you don't like this kind of humor, by all means, don't watch it. You know you're not gonna like it, don't fucking check it out. But if you know that you're a fan of this kind of thing, and you haven't seen it, and you are curious, I'd recommend looking into it. I really liked it. I liked the animation, I liked the characters and a lot of their banter. I thought a lot of the jokes, a lot of the dialogue-heavy jokes were some of my favorites. But every once in a while, they would have characters just say something vulgar, and yeah, it made me laugh. I like a lot of the pop culture references, I like the music, I really like a lot of what this show had to offer, and I am curious to see what the follow-up is going to be like when we get more word about that. I feel like this show definitely has a very special place in anime and pop culture. I mean, you still see people cosplay as the characters, doing fan art of the characters, doing videos and compilations of scenes from the show and talking about it. But I also feel like this kind of show, I mean, there's a bunch of anime that are kind of like this, where they're supposed to be reflective of a different art style, but it kind of reminds me of shows like Teen Titans and Avatar: Last Airbender, and like even Samurai Jack to an extent. Those were Western shows that clearly took a lot of influence from anime. This is an anime series that took a lot of influence from Western animation and Western pop culture. And I feel like they did a really good job of it in their own weird, wacky, vulgar kind of way. So anyways, guys, that does it for Blockbuster Show in June. Look forward to 3 new movie reviews coming next month. Don't want to spoil too much about what we got coming up, because got some fucking hell of a movies for next month. But until then, guys, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Peekaboo. I saw it. There it is. There it is again.